My name is Qing, and in my previous life, as the legitimate daughter of the chief minister, my purpose in entering the palace was never to compete for the emperor's favor, but rather to become the most virtuous concubine in the imperial harem. In that lifetime, I neither fought nor competed, remaining as serene as a chrysanthemum. All the consorts trusted me. Whenever they failed in their palace intrigues, they would come to me to entrust their children to my care. Being soft-hearted by nature, and having served as a female scholar at the Imperial Academy, I was professionally suited to the task. Sit properly now. What I am about to teach you is of utmost importance, the very essence of statecraft, I said, gazing at 9 little heads before me. If you listen well, you shall surely become pillars of the state, dragons among men. Thus, my Yangtze palace became a training ground for imperial princes, growing from 1 child to 9. Each was brilliantly educated under my tutelage. Any one of them could have been plucked out and declared a prodigy. The problem was this: too much talent, too few thrones. Leaning against the doorway, whenever I closed my eyes, I could see little Fifth gripping his sword, drenched in blood. He had slaughtered all his brothers, and now walked barefoot towards me, step by step. Imperial Mother, please forgive your son. How could I forgive? I had watched them tear each other apart with my own eyes, all for a single throne, fighting to the death. Though not born of my flesh, I had raised them for 30 years. Even grass and trees have feelings, how much more so human hearts. Unable to accept such an ending, I resolutely chose to end it all with a white silk cord. Yet, instead of returning to the past, I was reborn. Noble consort Chu Shuelian had just met her untimely end, and the emperor stood at the gates of Yanxi Palace with the wailing first prince in his arms. Virtue consort, be obedient. I bestow upon you the title. Virtue, its meaning, needs no elaboration. Since entering the palace, I had always been compliant, never once defying orders. But I truly could not bear to experience that scene again. Every time I closed my eyes, the image of 5th Prince butchering his brothers lingered before me, the heavy scent of blood filling my chest like a bundle of rotting cloth. This concubine refuses. My words left the emperor stunned. Though he respected my father, the chief minister, seeing my obstinacy, he refrained from forcing me, though how could his decisions ever truly change, rather than compel me himself? He found a persuader instead, the deceased noble consort herself. Standing before Chu Shuelian's memorial tablet with the emperor, I remembered her. We had grown up together. She possessed a gentle nature, though her ambitions soared high. Naturally, she would marry none but the finest. Entering the palace, she would compete for nothing less than supreme favor. The tallest tree catches the most wind. The noble consort never even knew who had orchestrated her death. The emperor, in his 30s, stood with hands clasped behind his back, mature and seasoned. His emotions never showed on his face. His voice remained perpetually even. Her final words were but one request: that first Prince Zhao Mingxuan be sent to Yanxi Palace. Turning to look at me, I glimpsed tears glistening in his eyes. The emperor was undeniably handsome, and a handsome man's tears always stirred some measure of pity in women. She left not even a single word for me. Perhaps she trusted me as little as the rest. Virtue consort, would you truly let her down? The emperor was masterful at psychological manipulation, truly an old fox. Just this one, I muttered to myself as I accepted Zhao Mingxuan. But such things have a way of multiplying. Palace affairs were never mine to control. The consorts continued their battles of wit and will, all treating my Yangtze palace as the forbidden city's sanctuary. Before long, 9 children had gathered under my roof, their little heads gleaming so bright, we scarcely needed lamps at night. Gazing into their clear eyes, I sighed deeply. Fate truly allowed no human agency. Having no alternative, I pondered the matter thoroughly, even smoking 2 pipes of water tobacco, before devising a solution. Rather than raise 9 dragons to destroy each other, why not pamper myself and have them all serve me instead? As for Confucian classics, imperial strategy, moral education, and political military analysis, this old lady wouldn't teach a single word of it this time. Lingxue, come prepare a bowl of lotus seed soup for Imperial Mother. You must personally fan the flames for a gentle simmer, understood? First Prince Zhao Mingxuan looked puzzled, still clutching his copy of the Great Learning. Infuriated, I tore the book apart and tossed it into the fire. A gentleman's lack of talent is itself virtue. No, wait. That should be a woman's lack of talent is virtue. Are you questioning Imperial Mother? A gentleman belongs in the kitchen. You must become a man who can cook. If it doesn't taste good, Imperial Mother won't love you anymore. I gradually brainwashed Mingxuan, who hung his head and sighed. Imperial Mother, if I cook well, will you love me? I will, but remember this, whatever I tell you must never be spoken to others, especially not to your imperial father. Mingxuan looked confused, his round eyes questioning why. Laughable. Of course I feared the emperor might have my head. Because Imperial Mother loves you most and wishes to train you in secret. I extended my little finger. Shall we make a pinky promise? Hearing this, Mingxuan beamed so widely his eyes nearly disappeared. Pinky promise, sealed for 100 years. This method proved remarkably effective. Mingxuan devoted himself wholeheartedly to culinary arts. Soon, second Prince Zhao Mingyuan reached the age for primary education. Mingyuan, go work the fields. As a prince, you must understand the people's hardships. Tell me, what are the roots of our great Liang dynasty? Zhao Mingyuan bobbed his head. Naturally, the people of Great Liang. What did your imperial father do on the 2nd day of the 2nd month when the dragon raises its head? He performed the ritual plowing ceremony. Precisely. Even your imperial father understands that our people value agriculture above all. You too must follow his example to become his most outstanding son. Mingyuan possessed more cunning than Mingxuan. He was consort-and's child. Consort and held low rank, and was naturally sensitive, traits he inherited completely. Why does Imperial Mother suddenly speak of this? The Grand Tutor says reading is more important. I smiled sweetly and kissed Mingyuan's cheek. Silly boy, whose man is the Grand Tutor? 4th uncles. There you have it. Can he truly care for you? Only Imperial Mother treats you as her own flesh and blood. In my heart, the others cannot compare to you. Tears welled in Mingyuan's eyes, already looked down upon by his brothers, due to his lowly birth. Hearing such words made his little face flush pink. He hugged me tightly, though only 6 years old. He was surprisingly strong. Excellent, perfect material for farming. If Imperial Mother speaks so, your son will surely be filial to you forever. Then will you farm? I will. Thus it was that my palace housed 9 children, some cooking, some farming, some raising chickens, some embroidering. I had transformed them into a veritable technical college. As for academic studies, every time they mentioned books, I scolded them. Soon the children took pride in their scholarly ignorance. The emperor remained quite busy in those years, and naturally paid little attention to us. 5 years later, Mingxuan had reached 10 and mastered culinary arts to perfection. Lying in bed, I rang my little bell, and third Prince Zhao Mingji immediately scurried over like a lapdog to massage my waist and shoulders. His Majesty approaches. How had he come? I sprang up from my couch in alarm. The emperor's face was thunderous, a stack of papers in his hand which he hurled before me. Your Majesty, whatever is the matter. First Prince's policy essays are absolutely deplorable. The Emperor rubbed his temples. How exactly have you been educating him? No sooner had he spoken than we heard Mingxuan's cry. Chicken soup's ready. The Emperor and I both turned to look. The once precious heir to the empire now wore an embroidered apron, holding a bowl of fragrant chicken soup, his face ruddy and smile obsequious. Seeing the Emperor present, Mingxuan's voice trembled. Imperial Father, what brings you here? The Emperor's mind worked quickly as he turned to study me. The atmosphere grew tense, yet the soup's aroma continued wafting through our nostrils. Your Majesty, the people regard food as heaven itself. To become a worthy prince, how can one fail to experience the daily hearth smoke of common folk? I racked my brains for excuses, cold sweat forming on my back. The Emperor chuckled coldly, his slender finger adorned with an imperial green jade ring that refracted light into my panicked pupils. He tapped the table slowly, the light dancing back and forth, like being trapped in a police interrogation room, more oppressive than any spotlight. At this critical moment, my stomach growled audibly. The Emperor smiled wryly. The virtue consort is indeed thoughtful in her methods, all within this concubine's duties. By the grace of your Majesty and noble consort's trust, this concubine shall fulfill her responsibilities in educating the princes unto death itself. The Emperor's furrowed brow relaxed slightly. I breathed easier. Mingxuan finally dared smile, carefully offering the soup to his father. Would Imperial Father like to taste it? The Emperor gestured his willingness to try. But before the soup could be served, fourth Prince Zhao Menghao burst in covered in dirt. Imperial Mother, my Super Saiyan rooster has vanished. Big Brother definitely stewed it. My legs went weak. Before I could kneel, the usually aloof Mingyuan appeared behind him clutching vegetables. Good that he stewed it, saved your chicken from eating my greens. Disaster. I dropped to my knees, not daring to lift my head. The Emperor dismissed everyone else. The hall now contained only ourselves and 9 princes. He stood unmoved, his cold downward gaze sharp enough to slice through me. Cooking, farming, embroidery, chicken raising, fishing, carpentry, masonry, weaving. Here the Emperor leaned forward slightly, commanding me to look up. 9th Prince Zhao Mingzi has only just turned 1.5. Which trade does the virtue consort plan for him? His question left me trembling. Your Majesty misunderstands this concubine. The prince's academic studies naturally fall to their tutors. This concubine teaches them skills beyond books. Firstly, to help them understand common hardships for better governance. Secondly, seeing your Majesty's endless toils breaks my heart, so I cultivate their filial devotion. However dire the circumstances, I remained a gold medal lecturer, trusted by civil service candidates. Even facing death, I'd argue with fine words. This concubine first experiences the children's filial piety on your Majesty's behalf. Once presentable, I'd have them display such before your Majesty, all to provide a pleasant surprise. The Emperor stared at me, his emotions unreadable. By such logic, I should thank the virtue consort instead. I forced a smile. All within this concubine's duties. Suddenly, the Emperor grasped my chin. What was this? In my previous life, the Emperor and I shared no intimate scenes. I never even merited his nocturnal visits. With so many beautiful women in the harem, I was merely an insignificant figure sustained by family connections. His sudden physical contact thus felt quite uncomfortable. The virtue consort educates children so well. I suddenly feel that if we two had a child together, you would certainly teach even better. The harem has lacked joyous news for far too long. Perhaps you might provide me another surprise. I shook my head tremulously. Though handsome, He had far too many women, firstly violating my matrimonial principles, secondly, making me a target for other women's hatred. Should I gain favor, how could I then live peacefully in the palace? I hastily averted my face, escaping his control. The emperor's jade thumb ring scraped past my cheek, ice cold. "What is wrong?" he asked with a light laugh. "This concubine. Refusing imperial favor could cost one's head. What to do? Think of some excuse." Yet the emperor had already begun stroking my hair. The intoxicating imperial fragrance invaded my nostrils. Just as he seemed about to ravish me in broad daylight, I retreated frantically, kowtowing thrice. "This concubine knows her error. Please, your majesty, cease this mockery." Deathly silence fell so profound, I could hear my own thundering heartbeat. What madness has seized this dead emperor? How could he possibly fancy such an unremarkable woman as myself? Lost in chaotic thoughts, I failed to notice the emperor rising. "You refuse to serve me." His eagle eyes bored into me with certainty. Walking before me with hands clasped behind his back, the 5-clawed dragon on his sleeves seemed to writhe alive. "I offer you 2 choices, either properly educate my 9 sons, or bear me another child." Was he an emperor or a merchant, wanting everything? "Henceforth I shall inspect each prince's studies monthly. Should the virtue consort show any negligence, I shall certainly summon you to my bed." What a complete bastard! After he left, all 9 sons, including little 9th prince, who barely reached my knees, stared at me with wide eyes. Each child's gaze held confusion mixed with concern for my well-being. "Imperial Mother, are you all right?" Lingxue spoke first, taking my hand as though he'd done wrong. "It is all my fault if I hadn't written such poor policy essays. Imperial Father wouldn't have come to Yangtze Palace." With that, Lingxue began weeping like a baby. This child possessed such a gentle nature by birth, otherwise, he never would have allowed 5th Prince to grow powerful in the previous life, ultimately losing his crown prince position. "It is nothing," Imperial Mother simply thought insufficiently. "Though cooking and farming are important, you remain princes nonetheless. Being completely illiterate would indeed invite ridicule." All 9 children obediently nodded in unison. "From now on, Imperial Mother will teach you reading and writing. But privately, we'll continue our preferred activities secretly." Agreed. Hearing this, the children sighed with relief. Then all 9 heads crowded against me. "Imperial Mother is too wonderful. Your son feared he'd no longer remain in Yangtze Palace." "Second Prince Mingyuan," whispered softly. His birth mother consort and now enjoyed favor, having hinted at wanting him back. But consortant's rank remained too low, lacking main palace status. She naturally couldn't educate children. Moreover, Mingyuan had grown less sensitive than before. After all, waking daily to till fields from dawn to dusk, even the most self-doubting lad had no energy for brooding when exhausted. Thus, "Rest assured, Imperial Mother won't send you back." I spent the sleepless night organizing previous life's factional lists. 3 camps had existed: Mingxuan, Mingzhe, and Minghao formed one group, Yuan, Mingshu, and Mingze another. The remaining Mingxi, Minghao, and Mingcheng comprised the third. Mingxuan was noble consort. Chu Shuilian's son, Mingji, and Minghao belonged to virtuous consort, Su Yayan. The virtuous and noble consorts were cousins, explaining their children's closer relationships. As for Mingyuan, Mingshu, and Mingzi, all born to low-ranking concubines, in my previous life, focused on the children's studies while neglecting other matters, I'd failed to notice these 3 being constantly bullied. Mingxi, Minghao, and Mingcheng were born to the successor empress. Mingcheng, born after she became empress proper, counted as a legitimate son, and thus joined the succession struggle. chaotic, but finally clarified. I reshuffled the three groups, making previously antagonistic princes share quarters. I established mutual aid teams where older boys tutored younger ones. If performance proved poor, the elder would be punished. Before adulthood, I'd prevent their contact with maternal relatives. Weekly team-building activities would strengthen brotherly bonds. Among the 9, any bullying behavior merited severe punishment, regardless of parentage. Within my Yangtze palace, all are equal, no distinctions of blood or closeness. Those making such divisions need not call me imperial mother. Another 5 years passed in a flash. Like the previous life, they all became learned, courteous, and brilliantly wise. The emperor's weekly inspections proved almost entirely satisfactory, with gifts flowing like water to my Yangtze palace. The emperor occasionally dined with me when in good spirits, though he never spent the night maintaining respectful distance. Having you enter the palace to raise children was indeed the correct decision. The emperor smiled slightly, personally serving me vegetables. Your Majesty jests. The prince's natural talents deserve credit. This concubine merely performed small services within her capabilities. How modest! The virtue consort's methods and abilities far exceed other harem women. Her smiling refusal suggested today's exceptional mood, perhaps due to the prince's fine performance during the morning's audience with foreign envoys. They only engage in meaningless squabbles. These petty palace intrigues bore me terribly. Don't you agree? Time for a new game. The emperor's eyes glinted with cunning light. Something felt different about him today, though I couldn't identify what. Your Majesty. Have you been drinking? The emperor waved dismissively, gently caressing my cheek with a gaze like one examining exquisite porcelain. I am quite sober, merely lamenting that such a perfect woman lacks matching beauty. Goosebumps rose across my skin as I instinctively withdrew. His intoxicated laughter followed. I've always preferred beauties exclusively, you needn't worry. The emperor's behavior that night left me perpetually anxious. Though he didn't visit again for some time, when I sent the children to pay respects, they reported nothing unusual about their father. I relaxed somewhat. Lingxue told me Imperial father said today that as crown prince, I may now govern in his stead. This came faster than in the previous life. Excellent. You others must assist your eldest brother, well understood? After 5 years of brotherly education, they'd abandoned their cliques. Fitting together like chopsticks, any two could pair perfectly. Resembling the emperor so closely, they appeared like a handsome troupe. We understand completely, they chorused, gazing admiringly at Lingxue, without jealousy or competition, perfect harmony. I felt somewhat reassured, though previous life's conflicts arrived more swiftly. During the crown prince's regency period, Consort's father was exposed for corruption at his birthday celebration. In the study hall, Consort tearfully begged Lingxue for help. The emperor had gone to Mount Tai. All affairs fell to the crown prince's decision. In the previous life, this became the catalyst for Lingxue's estrangement from his brother. The crown prince, being upright by nature, insisted on executing the corrupt official. Consort died of grief, and Lingxue hated his brother thereafter. I summoned Lingxue first to ask his thoughts. He is unworthy of being my grandfather. Naturally, law must prevail, but seeing Consort weep so pitifully breaks my heart. Though despising that man, he remained human with natural emotions. Despite Consort showing only birth kindness, blood connections still mattered. If this matter fell to you, how would you handle it? Lingxue looked surprised, then straightened his robes. I'd probably show mercy, he said softly. Since Consort's health has declined, if I could preserve his life, that would eliminate my concerns. Lingxue's response delighted me greatly. I summoned the crown prince separately, saying gently, The real issue isn't that corrupt official, but consort and herself. You act according to law, but beyond legal principle lies brotherly affection. The crown prince pressed his lips together. Understanding immediately, I comprehend imperial mother's meaning. Before punishing the official, the crown prince arranged precious medicines for consort Anne's residence, while secretly interceding without her knowledge. Then he quietly executed her father according to law. Rather than assigning this task to Mingyuan as in the previous life, he gave it to Mingji. Naturally, Mingyuan felt no resentment, instead, thanking the crown prince for his thoughtfulness. Seeing the first tragedy of the previous life averted, I rejoiced. Since the emperor was absent, I had the crown prince cook personally. We arranged a large round table in the courtyard for hot pot with the children. But just as we began eating mutton, a maid rushed in frantically, whispering in my ear, "Your ladyship, disaster! Consort Anne is gone!" Consort Anne never left her chambers these past days. Daily supplements continued, and even the imperial physicians said her health was improving. They say she died instantly upon learning of her father's execution. But who told her? To prevent her distress, I had replaced all her attendants 7 or 8 years ago. Logically, she couldn't have learned so quickly. Among current harem occupants, ranking above me, all had died successively. Who possessed sufficient authority to influence my people? Imperial mother, second prince has gone to pay respects. Yuan still grieved for his mother, personally dealing with serving staff. None admitted leaking information, so Mingyuan requested their complete execution. Before the funeral concluded, noble consort's brother also faced troubles. Her brother Chu Sheng killed someone while appropriating farmland. Noble consort's father and mine were old friends. In the previous life, the crown prince initially refused favoritism, but my father secretly interceded behind my back, commuting execution to exile. When I learned, it was too late. Events occurred consecutively, but the crown prince showed partiality, cooling Mingyuan's faction's hearts. Nurse Ayan. I wrote a family letter warning father against interference, then summoned the crown prince for stern instruction. The crown prince agreed readily. Half a month later, I heard Mingji muttering outside the window. Second brother's really being unreasonable. Crown prince brother was forced into it. Nobody wanted this. I called him in for questioning. Mingji stammered reluctantly. If you won't speak, you'll truly break imperial mother's heart. I gritted my teeth, first time showing anger before the children. These weren't my biological children, born into an imperial house of wolves. I pitied them, working tirelessly on their behalf. Having done my utmost these 2 lifetimes, staying up late preparing lessons, mending their brotherly bonds, why did things still turn out thus? It is still about the Chu family matter. That Chu Sheng killed someone, but Crown Prince brother showed mercy for old friendship, ordering only exile. But this really wasn't Crown Prince brother's fault. Mingji glanced at me guiltily. Crown Prince brother forbade me to speak. If I told, he'd beat me to death. If you don't tell, imperial mother won't want you. Hearing this, tears immediately flowed from Mingji's eyes. Don't be angry, imperial mother. It was Grand Tutor Su. Grand Tutor Su knelt begging Crown Prince brother, asking him to show mercy for noble consort's death, and Chu family, having only this one son, not to be too harsh. Father, I clutched my chest. That was wrong. I'd repeatedly warned father against such interference. He'd been quite obedient these years. Logically he wouldn't be so rash. I frantically sent Ayan to summon mother to the palace, but faced with my accusations, mother looked bewildered. The family never received your ladyship's letters. None. How is that possible? I always had Ayan give my family letters to the duty eunuch Little Box. He is my man. Seeing his exposure, Little Box knelt before me quite readily, before I could question him, he bit his tongue and died. Your ladyship, this servant wronged you. I stared at him in shock. He'd served me 15 years without a single betrayal. Before dying, little Box's eyes held tears, blood from his mouth, like rouge, unnaturally thick. I'd tried desperately to prevent the previous life's events, but why did the plot continue racing forward uncontrollably, even killing innocent people this time? What had gone wrong? Investigate thoroughly whom little Box met recently, where he went, clutching my heart. Rain poured outside, while the crown prince, learning of discovery, had knelt outside for half a day. Through window cracks, I saw his straight back soaked by rain, eyes closed, his face blurred with moisture. I couldn't tell if he wept. I sent Ayan with an umbrella, but the crown prince refused it. Your son knows his error. I've disappointed second brother and imperial mother. In that moment, I seemed to see him dying in prison from the previous life. But what was his crime? The fault lay with informants, with those intercepting my letters. Thinking deeper, Chu Sheng's matter showed early signs. Why were both incidents exposed consecutively? Clearly, invisible hands manipulated everything. I watched the doorway coldly as the head eunuch's shrill voice approached. His Majesty arrives. The crown prince's form swayed. Turning instinctively, he met the emperor's gaze directly. The emperor passed him by, eyes showing only disappointment. You are crown prince. How can you kneel before a mere concubine? The emperor stood beneath the corridor, as crystal-like raindrops cascaded behind him. I observed his refined profile, cold laughter rising in my heart. The crown prince frowned, unprepared for such words. I am deeply disappointed in you. Such weakness, how can you govern as heir? Your ladyship, little Box secretly visited that night. Ayan spoke with difficulty, silent long before uttering 3 words, Changqing Palace. Before transmigrating, I'd heard of a game like Emperor Cultivation Plan, where sadistic players would breed many children, watching them destroy each other, like raising poison insects. I never imagined my emperor resembled those players. For gamers, those were merely data, emotionless paper figures, but these 9 sons were the emperor's own flesh and blood. Even tigers don't eat their cubs. He was truly a complete bastard, unable to bear his sons' happiness, forcing them to fight unto death. Watching the nearly broken crown prince outside, and Mingyuan hiding in darkness, swallowing tears while observing secretly, my heart ached as if being torn apart. In the previous life, such manipulative schemes were countless. I'd naively believed strong affection could overcome any challenge, but the children lacked God's perspective. How could human nature withstand repeated malicious tests? When humanity crumbled, how could one question why they fell, rather than examine what they endured? What daydreaming occupies the virtue consort? The emperor entered through the curtain smiling. Your Majesty? I forced a smile, rising to pay respects. But the emperor grasped my arm. The sensation felt like serpentine coils, disgusting and suffocating. I imperceptibly stepped backward. How exactly did the crown prince offend you, making him kneel thus? Your Majesty jests. I smiled briefly, casually drawing the curtain. The one offending this concubine is your Majesty. I was a protective mother hen. During my teaching days, anyone bullying my students faced my discipline. Someone once pointed at my nose saying, "You didn't birth these saints, why get emotionally involved?" But I didn't care. I loved all my students. They respected me. I should love them in return. Educational fields contained countless such saints. Like me, I was proud. A teacher's duty: transmit knowledge, impart skills, resolve doubts. I calmly watched the emperor, seeing his handsome face slowly distort, like a cracking mask. My anger had apparently reached him, his brow, no longer formed attractive curves. Virtue consort, do you know what you are saying? I know perfectly. Need I repeat it, Your Majesty? I laughed coldly. I only ask, are this concubine's family letters in Chongqing Palace? The emperor flicked his sleeve. You investigate quite quickly, neither confirming nor denying. He even reached for tea with raised brows. I knocked the cup from his hands. Virtue consort, you are angry. The emperor chuckled softly, watching me like amusing a small sparrow. How rare first time in 20 years seeing your temper. Why must they fight fraternally to the death? 9 sons competing for succession, isn't it spectacular? The emperor leaned back, spreading his hands. My dynasty needs a true governing genius as next ruler. With your guidance, each excels individually. Only by fighting among themselves can the strongest emerge worthy of inheriting my throne. He'd laid his cards on the table, no more May you die horribly. I'd shown my hand, too afraid of no one. Nonsense rambling, have you gone mad? The emperor frowned, looking me up and down. I speak only truth, I sneered, yanking off my headdress. I am done with this charade. I helped raise your children while you used me to sabotage them. I quit. At worst, you'll kill me. Don't forget your family. Then kill them too, I don't care. The emperor and I glared at each other. He was the smaller one. I knew well, he wouldn't kill me, much less father. At most he'd claim I'd gone mad and confine me to the palace. The emperor departed with flourished sleeves, indeed ordering my confinement. No sooner had he left than I shouted, "An! Bring cold water quickly, this tea's scalding me." Palace confinement was merely my plan's first step. Upon my punishment, the children all rushed to kneel at Qingzhu Palace. The emperor raged at them, speaking of petty feminine sentiment unworthy of great use. But the 9 children wouldn't listen, forming 3 rows at the entrance, even preventing ministers from morning court. They knelt 3 full days, until completely collapsed. The emperor was aging, where could he sire more sons? If these 9 were ruined, who would inherit his throne? Helplessly, emperor relented, permitting them to visit me, while absolutely forbidding my departure. I awaited them at the entrance, as they supported each other approaching. Ayan couldn't help sighing softly. Your ladyship's gambit was too dangerous. If even one of the 9 princes proved insincere, I shook my head. Impossible. However, they might fight among themselves. I am certain they love me. What child doesn't love their mother? Seeing me, the children all burst into tears, even the eldest at 16 still crying like babies. I smiled warmly, taking their hands as in childhood, tapping each forehead. I heard you 9 went without food or water for 3 whole days. Imperial mother, we'd rather starve than lose you. Lingxue wept, while wiping tears. Being the boldest, this protest was his idea. Imperial mother doesn't want you dying. I signaled Ayan to close the door, leading the children inside, as they all gazed at me expectantly. The crown prince spoke first. Why did imperial mother suddenly quarrel with imperial father? Because your imperial father is inhuman. At these words, all 9 held their breath, not daring to speak. Consort An's death was his doing. My family letters warning father against interference were also intercepted by him. He wants you to destroy each other. I'd taught them much, but never this lesson, the world's vastness. While our dynasty seemed large on Earth's far side, industrial seeds were quietly sprouting. Revolution was leading the West toward modernization. Along the same timeline, while we still fought over imperial power through 9-son succession, they'd already envisioned global blueprints, colonizing every corner. What Imperial Mother will say next isn't fantasy but absolute occurring fact. In a sense, the Emperor equally inhabits a well, gazing only at sky above. I didn't want these talented youths consumed by such corrupt political systems. I wanted them united, venturing forth to wash away centuries of national humiliation. I spoke for 3 full hours, sharing all my knowledge. Their initial shock transformed into faces radiating magnificent ambition. Monarchy has grown obsolete, I said quietly. Words deserving clan extermination. Only one throne exists, but a dynasty's leadership needn't be singular. You 9 each excel in different fields. I don't want you destroying each other. I sighed gently, setting down my brush. Consider today's words carefully. If you deem them heretical ravings, simply stop acknowledging me as mother. They exchanged glances, their faces showing conflict and fear, plus some impulse toward unknown territories. I didn't know what their answer would be, but regardless, I'd done what a teacher and mother should do. Ayan helped me organize papers and brushes, shaking her head carefully. Your ladyship, feels like we should prepare our own coffins. We won't need them. Spring passed to autumn, the red persimmon trees outside began bearing fragrant fruit. I waited 10 years in Yanxi Palace. No good news arrived, but nothing bad either. The emperor severed all my information sources, so daily I could only eat, sleep, and write books. I recorded all these years Prince educating experiences, writing hastily since I feared waking next morning to choose between white silk and poison wine. Consequently, I developed severe frozen shoulder, and with advancing age, showed signs of presbyopia. In modern times, 47 might still be young with 20 years until retirement. But here it was already old. Ayan grew increasingly verbose, first scolding the children for ingratitude, then reminiscing about their cuteness. Bustling activity was better. Wonder if Lingxue's been eating persimmon cakes lately. He loved them most. Ayan fiddled with persimmon cakes in her palm, their sugar coating perfect and obviously sweet. If he won't eat them, I will. I rubbed my aching shoulder, reaching for one, when I heard the door opening. Your ladyship, time to depart. The emperor's head, eunuch, wore a false smile. Beside him white silk and poison wine. Which is quicker? Ayan sighed. Eunuch, how are the children? That is not your ladyship's concern. I poured poison wine into the persimmon cake, eating while laughing. Before death, I seemed to hear cannon fire outside, perhaps hallucination. Well, I could always restart again. A bee's buzzing sound, and my blurred vision suddenly cleared, like wiping clean a camera lens, gradually focusing. Below were tender young faces, all. Teacher, why did you stop lecturing? I'd returned, steadying my spirit. I reflexively looked at the book beside me. I distinctly remembered stopping at modern history's humiliation section, but the book before me contained no such content, instead showing 9 regions of China. Me eyes moistened as I flipped through the book repeatedly. The humiliating modern history had completely vanished, replaced by 9 sons overthrowing feudal monarchy, learning foreign skills to resist foreigners, successfully maintaining great power status. The entire world map was nearly covered in red dots, all footprints of China's final 9 emperors. Teacher, we've covered this chapter. Why are you suddenly crying? I looked up in a daze, realizing tears streamed down my face. Oh, nothing. I turned away, wiping tears with tissue. Let's discuss something else. What interests you? We do, though the 9 princes clearly came from imperial families. How did they suddenly awaken? The book says they personally recorded guidance from Virtue Consort Lady, but she was just a palace woman. How could she possess such advanced thinking? I momentarily didn't know how to answer, only smiling faintly with lowered eyes. Teacher doesn't know this question either, but since they claimed such existence, it probably was real. Imagine if truly a woman willing to cross time and space repeatedly, teaching 9 children toward righteousness. Wouldn't that be quite romantic? For 10 years, The children dared not visit me. They first secretly sent several fleets, despite the emperor. Few returned alive, but survivors existed. From those who lived, they learned my words were true. The world was vast, earth was round. Their imperial father simultaneously contacted British rulers. He would obstruct entire dynastic progress for power's sake. The children began 10 years of revolutionary planning, dangerous yet cautious, but they believed their imperial mother hadn't deceived them. A peaceful, great system existed requiring no fraternal slaughter yet, achieving national prosperity. Palace intrigue, court maneuvering, supreme power for these 9, all paled beside achieving an unoppressed, unhumiliated dynasty. I gave them not a colosseum, but a bright path. On that road, brothers could support and encourage each other, witnessing people living peacefully while the dynasty flourished. Walking that path, a petty throne became merely feudal society's decadent, dying moth insignificant. But the children's greatest regret, on reform's final night, I died from poisoned wine. That autumn, knowing his death approached, the emperor insisted on taking me along. He cared nothing for other beauties, yet fixated on me this plain virtue consort. Virtue consort. Be obedient. Obey your arse. In that era of blood and fire, the 9 princes ultimately united to overthrow corrupt monarchy, establishing an unprecedented federal state. Mingxuan handled governance. Mingyuan managed agriculture. Mingxue specialized in military affairs. Minghao excelled at commerce. Mingxu directed industry. Mingxi oversaw education. Minghao controlled diplomacy. Mingcheng administered law. And Mingzi led technological development. They rescued this ancient Eastern nation from feudalism's quagmire, leading it toward modernity's bright future. All originated from one ordinary woman's extraordinary choice. History remembered virtue consort Su Wangqing's name, recording how she used love and wisdom to rewrite a dynasty's fate.